Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Reviewing Comics with me, your host, Alexander Turbin. This week we'll be doing the indie anthology Soaked in Blood by J.K. Papers. But before we get into that, I want to show you some of my own stuff that you can help support the channel. It's random access. I produce a full-size, full-color, 12-page comic book every month for my patrons. You can go to patreon.com/Alexander Turbin to find me on Patreon, and it's only $2 a month. Like I said, it's 12 pages, full size, full color. This is the newest issue, starring the Death Knight, and it is guest starring Soera, and she's created by Matt Chi, and you can find him at mattchi.com. Matt Chi Instagram, and it's colored. The beautiful cover is colored by Jake Quirk. You can find him on Instagram at Mangdangle. So, like I said, it's on Patreon, but I also put it on my own website, alexanderturbin.com. And you can find a lot of my stuff there. And I have, I'm up to issue 15 with random access. And I also have a bunch of Mutanduses and other selected works that I've done throughout the years. But Soaked in Blood. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to review them issue at a time because I tried to do that, and they're just such thick, beefy books that they have so many different talented artists that it just took me forever just to get through one issue. So what I'd like to do is pick one storyline that goes through all three issues, and maybe just pick out some of the other one-shotters or something like that I'll add to it. So the story that I'm picking is called Skinner by Jake Quirk, and you can find him again at Mangdangle on Instagram. He's the second story or second thing in the book, and like I said, this is produced by J.K. Papers, which is Nathaniel J.K., and he got this awesome group of artists to contribute to his anthology Soaked in Blood, which, as you can see, it's all in red paper on black ink. The only problem with that is my old eyes have a hard time seeing some of the stuff. In the third issue, it's actually just the cover is red and the rest is white, which helps me seeing it. And but I do love the whole aesthetic of the red paper and the black ink, and it being excuse me, called Soaked in Blood. It really lends to the whole theme and atmosphere of the book. And so the anthology's theme is that everything takes place in 19XDX or 19XX. Excuse me. So here's the first issue. And like I said, I'm going to go through Skinner. But before that, there's a intro art piece by Nathaniel, and I really love it. It feels neon-y. I really kind of wish it was just in neon colors. That would be really awesome. This would be an awesome, like, black and white, black light poster, or like just something in a neon colored. So it's just like a 4-panel quick page of crime pays, and it's just a crime happening, and he gets away with it, which unfortunately, more often than not, they do get away with it. So anyway, so I'm going to go through Skinner, through each of the different books, and this is by Jake Quirk, and I love his artwork. Everything is so clean and neat and tidy, but it's not stiff at all. None of his characters are stiff. They all have a real nice life of their own. And so Skinner is what you think of him in the beginning, the first issue, you think he's like a detective or something. It starts out with somebody talking to somebody on the monitor, and it takes place, I think, in a future, and it looks very, I love the background, looks very Blade Runner-ish with the Blade Runner type sign and stuff. And so it feels like he's a detective, a noir detective. And it kind of goes through, and he's looking for this guy who I guess he's talking to the one on the monitor is the one that Skinner is looking for. So he tracks him down because he's obviously a super tracking dude. Like I said, it looks very noir, detective like. So he goes into, he's going to go into a club, and the doorman, who he says in the beginning or over here, is that he's there to protect him from any person getting in that wants to harm him. But Skinner has other plans, and he uses this big beefy gun to blast his head in. And one of the great things about this whole story is the fact that it feels very oh, what's that movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger? And he's at Mars. Total Recall. It feels very Total Recall-ish, and in every good way. Because I mean that might be one of Arnold Schwarzenegger's best movie, if not his best. Well, Conan. Other than Conan, I think Total Recall is probably Arnold Schwarzenegger's best movie. But it's also directed by Verhoeven, the one that did RoboCop, and so they have a whole sensibility about the movie, and I get the same sensibility in Jake's comic here, and I love this the dancing sequence, the nightclub sequence. Doing nightclubs very difficult because you can, if you don't do it correctly, it can just kind of look like lines and people just kind of acting aimlessly, I guess. I've done a few nightclub scenes and I've never really been happy with any of them, but this is beautiful. My only comment is that I kind of wish this panel was a little bit bigger, maybe put this smaller, and I just kind of wish this was a bigger panel. But it's an anthology. You've got a lot of information that you got to convey in a very short amount of time, which is kind of one of probably, if not the biggest drawback of an anthology, is that you just don't have a lot of time to add to the story, because sometimes stories take a little bit of build up and to really get into the action. But not this one, because he blows off the bodyguard's head, and just he's looking for him. He asks the bartender, who's a robot, and I guess that's either a waitress or something, and she tells him that he's out back, the guy that he's looking for. So the guy that he's looking for has other bodyguards, and she told him that he was in the VIP room. And so Skinner just blasts the bodyguards apart and kind of makes himself known and just kills the guy that he's looking for. And the person that he's talking to on the monitor, Skinner says he's coming for him, basically. He's dead, General. 5 down, 1 to go. So this starts after most of the action has taken place, which is very cool. It's kind of like did Kill Bill do that, where some of it was already done? I think so. Because there were flashbacks. It's hard to say with Tarantino movies exactly what is going on. I'm going to get to this at a later date, because I find it fascinating. This is Nathaniel's next piece, and I'm going to have to go through it some more, because for being so simple drawing, it has I feel like it has a lot of meaning, and you have to kind of delve into what he's saying. But on to the next issue of Skinner. So like I said, these books are beefy, and it doesn't start in the beginning. I believe it's towards the back. This is the one that I am. I'm not in the first one, but I started in the second one, and it's a coming. It's coming. All of the artists are awesome in these books. Yep, there it is. Okay, so there's 3 pages instead of the 2 pages in the first book, which is awesome. I think Jake was maybe just wetting his whistle with the first issue, and maybe thought a little bit more about what was going on, and got into it, which is really cool. Because when you're doing an anthology, if you're only doing one page or whatever, it might be, it's not always, but it might be that you're not really into what you're putting into it. But it could also just mean that you're not fully involved in the characters yet. And I feel like Jake really finds his footing in the second and third chapters. So here's Skinner, and he's at Mars, because he's at the Mars airport, which is, like I said, very reminiscent of Total Recall, just because it takes place in Mars, but it in the field too, which is awesome. So the security force, and it says don't mess with the security force or they'll kill you, pretty much. And so the security guy stops him and says, "What's in the briefcase?" And Skinner's like, "I'll show you what's in the briefcase, justice." And so he blasts the security guy in the face. And he doesn't stop there. He blasts the rest of the security forces. And he doesn't stop there. He blasts even some more security forces. So he's just going to town on these security guys. Yeah, I was making sure it wasn't 3. So they don't kidnap him. They arrest him, I guess. And he makes his way. They make their way to the guy he's looking for. But before he gets there, he snaps out of his manacles and kills the security guys, which is very cool. And then on to issue 3. And I'm looking forward to reviewing the rest of these, because there's some really, really, really great artists and really, really great stories in all of these. So he's headed up to the penthouse on Mars, and he's mowing through security guards left and right. And so he's just like, "Let's rumble." And these are the security. They kind of look like the guys in The Professional, which is one of my favorite movies. And so he mows them down, and they shoot him back, and you realize that he's a cyborg. And he finally makes it to the general, who's been after all along, and this general says, "What a waste of my work." And so this part, it becomes a little hard-boiled-ish, which is very nice. But I mean, the art is beautiful, and it explains the background where he was a soldier on Mars, and they used their cyborg technology to rebuild him. And so he just wants to get his revenge, and he goes and he kills the general that did that to him, that turned him into the cyborg. So instead of letting him die, they turned him to that, and he goes and he kills them. So again, here's really great artwork by Jake, and I love the motion. Like, you could have done this, the firing of guns in any kind of different ways, but I love how it's almost like a simplicity, because they're like laser blasts instead of bullet shots, although it shows bullets, cartridges. So maybe they're firing bullets and he's firing a laser. I don't know, but it's really cool. I love the simplicity of his figures and his devices, and I love the 6-panel grid of what's happening. Everything is so concise. You don't have to ever go back and look at what Jake's trying to convey in his art. So he's got some really great narrative art, and I love his panel breakdowns too. I love the too small, and then it's almost a splash page, and then it continues on to the next page and what's going on. So it's a simpler story, but it's also really great world building, and I would love to see more stories in this world. Maybe on Mars, maybe not on Mars, but you've still got the Skinner character, because he's obviously still alive. So I would love to see more Skinner storylines. So I would definitely give this like an 8 or a 9, probably 9. I'm going to give this a 9 because I really love Jake's work. It's really beautiful, and I think I like this one because it's on the white paper, and you can really see it a lot better being on the white paper. But on the red, it looks really good too. It's just a little bit harder to see. So yeah, I would give this a 9, and it's beautiful. I'd love to see. Obviously, he's one of the best colorists I've ever seen, and I would really love to see Skinner in a color story, which would be really awesome. But yep, I'm looking forward to reviewing more stories from Soaked in Blood, and I will definitely be doing that in the weeks to come. And if you guys enjoy this kind of content, please consider subscribing and leaving a comment if you also like these kind of books, and hit the notification bell. And that's all for today, and thanks a lot for watching. Have a good one.